Chapter 4: Scientific Views of Breathing. Breathing techniques and patterns are regularly advocated for relaxation, stress management, control of psychophysiological states, and to improve organ function. Anatomically speaking, there is a favorable equilibrium with breathing, which can be easily disrupted by fatigue or prolonged sympathetic nervous system arousal as seen with stress. One therapeutic goal of yoga is that it may reduce or alleviate some of the chronic negative effects of stress. This stress relief is one reason that breathing or pranayama, as it is called in yoga, is very central to yoga practices. Breathing, called ventilation, consists of two phases, inspiration and expiration. During inspiration, the diaphragm moves downward, increasing the volume of the thoracic cavity, and the external intercostal muscles pulls the ribs up and outward. This expands the rib cage and increases the chest volume. This increase of volume lowers the air pressure in the lungs as compared to atmospheric air, because air always flows from a region of high pressure to an area of low pressure. It travels in through the body's conducting airway in the alveoli of the lungs. During a resting expiration, the diaphragm and external intercostal muscles relax, restoring the thoracic cavity to its original volume and forcing air out of the lungs into the atmosphere. Whereas breathing is involved with the movement of air into and out of the thoracic cavity, respiration involves the exchange of gases in the lungs. With each breath, air passes through its conducting zone into the microscopic air sacs in the lungs called the alveoli. It is here that external respiration occurs. External respiration is the exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the air and the blood in the lungs. Blood enters the lungs via the pulmonary arteries. It then proceeds through arterioles and into the very tiny alveolar capillaries. Oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged between the blood and the air. Oxygen is loaded onto the red blood cells, while carbon dioxide is unloaded from them into the air. The oxygenated blood then flows out of the alveolar capillaries through venules and back to the heart via pulmonary veins. The heart then pumps the blood throughout the systematic arteries to deliver oxygen throughout the body. The respiratory center in the brainstem is responsible for controlling a person's breathing rate. It sends a message to the respiratory muscles telling them when to breathe. The medulla, located nearest the spinal cord, directs the spinal cord to maintain breathing, and the pons, a part of brain very near the medulla, provides further smoothing of the respiratory pattern. This control is automatic, involuntary, and continuous. One does not have to consciously think about it. The respiratory centers knows how to control the breathing rate and depth by the amount of carbon dioxide, oxygen, and acidosis in the arterial blood. There are receptors called chemoreceptors in the arc of aorta and throughout the arteries that send signals and feedback to increase or decrease the ventilatory output depending on the condition of these metabolic variables. For example, when we exercise, carbon dioxide levels increase significantly, which alert the chemoreceptors, which subsequently notify the brain's respiratory center to increase the speed and depth of breathing. This elevated respiration rids the body of excess carbon dioxide and supplies the body with more oxygen, which is needed during aerobic exercise. Upon cessation of the exercise, breathing rate and the depth gradually declines until carbon dioxide in the arterial blood returns to normal levels. The respiratory center will no longer be activated and breathing rate is restored to a pre-exercise pattern. This arterial pressure regulation feedback system that carbon dioxide, oxygen, and blood acid levels provide is referred to as the metabolic control of breathing. Breathing is the most unique as compared to other visceral functions in that it can also be regulated voluntarily. The behavioral or voluntary control of breathing is located in the cortex of the brain and describes that aspect of breathing with conscious control, such as self-initiated change in breathing before a vigorous exertion or effort. Speaking, singing, and playing some instruments, for example, clarinet, flute, saxophone, trumpet, etc., are good examples of behavioral control of breathing and are short-lived interventions as well. The behavioral control of breathing encompasses accommodating changes in breathing, such as those changes from stress and emotional stimuli. The differentiation between voluntary and automatic breathing is that automatic breathing requires no attention to maintain, whereas voluntary breathing involves a given amount of focus. Gallego and colleagues note that it is not fully understood how the behavioral and metabolic controls of respirations are linked. Pranayama breathing is often performed in yoga and meditation. It means the practice of voluntary breath control refers to inhalation, retention, and exhalation that can be performed quickly or slowly. As such, yoga breathing is considered as intermediary between the mind and body. In many yoga stories and literature, the word prana refers to the life force or energy. This has many applications, especially as it relates to the energy-producing processes within the body. There is a direct connection between the prana or energy of breathing and its effects on energy liberations in the body. Cellular metabolism, reactions in the cell to produce energy, for example, is regulated by oxygen provided during breathing. The yoga purpose of breath training is not to override the body's autonomic systems, although there is a clear evidence that pranayama breathing techniques can affect oxygen consumption and metabolism. In fact, much of the aim of pranayama breathing appears to shift the autonomic nervous system away from its sympathetic dominance. Pranayama breathing has been shown to positively affect immune function, hypertension, asthma, autonomic nervous system imbalances, and psychological or stress-related disorders. Jarrett and colleagues add that investigations regarding stress and psychological improvements support evidence that pranayama breathing alters the brain's information processing, making it an intervention that improves a person's psychological profile. Sovic notes that the main philosophy behind the yoga control of breathing is to increase awareness and understanding of the relationship between cognitive states, physical functioning, and breathing styles. According to Sovic, breath training includes the ability to sustain relaxed attention on the flow of breath to refine and control respiratory movements for optimal breathing and to integrate awareness and respiratory functioning in order to reduce stress and enhance psychological functioning. It is interesting to also recognize that there are several different types of breathing common to yoga, including the complete yoga breath, that is, conscious breathing in the lower, middle, and upper portions of lungs. Internal breathing, in which the duration of inhalation and exhalation are altered. Alternate nostril breathing, and belly breathing, to name a few. It is also equally worthy to observe that breath awareness was originally developed by the movements being done by the yogi to achieve the joining of the mind, body, and spirit in search for self-awareness, health, and spiritual growth. Although numerous studies show clinically beneficial health effects of pranayama breathing, slow pranayama breathing techniques show the most practical and physiological benefit, yet the underlying mechanism of how they work is not fully elucidated in the research. However, Jareth and colleagues hypothesize that the voluntary, slow deep breathing functionally resets the autonomic nervous system through stretch-induced inhibitory signals and hyperpolarization, that is, showing electrical action potentials, currents, which synchronizes neural elements in the heart, lungs, limbic system, and cortex. Investigations have demonstrated that slow breathing pranayama breathing techniques activate the parasympathetic nervous system, thus slowing certain physiological processes that may be functioning too fast or conflicting with the homeostasis of the cells. In order to maintain awareness on breathing and to reduce distractions, yoga participants use comfortable postures with the eyes closed. The outcome of mastering this breath control is that an individual can voluntarily use these practices to ease stressful or discomforting situations. Yoga participants learn how to deal with distractions and stress without having an emotionally stimulating physiological response. They practice doing this by first recognizing whatever the distraction or thought may be, and then returning or restoring the focus of attention back to breathing. The refocus centers on the thoughts, "I am breathing." Yoga enthusiasts also use asanas or specific postures with pranayama breathing, linking the movement or body position with the breathing. Jareth et al. State that more research is needed to understand how the combined approach of breathing and asanas elicit beneficial health outcomes. Although the diaphragm is one of the primary organs responsible for respiration, it is believed by some yogis to be under-functioning in many people. Thus, there is often emphasis placed on diaphragmatic breathing rather than the use of the overactive chest muscles. Anatomically, the diaphragm sits beneath the lungs and is above the organs of the abdomen. It is the separation between cavities of the torso, that is, the upper and thoracic and the lower or abdominal. It is attached at the base of the ribs, the spine, and the sternum. As described earlier, when the diaphragm contracts, the middle fibers, which are formed in a dome shape, descend into abdomen, causing thoracic volume to increase, thus drawing air into lungs. The practice of proper breathing techniques is aimed at eliminating misused accessory chest muscles with more emphasis on diaphragmatic breathing. With diaphragmatic breathing, the initial focus of attention is on the expansion of the abdomen, sometimes referred to as abdominal or belly breathing. Have a client place one hand on the abdomen above the navel to feel it being pushed outward during the inhalations. Next, the breathing focus includes the expansion of the rib cage during the inhalation. Correct diaphragmatic breathing will elicit a noticeable lateral expansion of the rib cage. Diaphragmatic breathing should be practiced in the supine, prone, and erect positions, as these are functional positions of daily life. Finally, the diaphragmatic breathing is integrated with physical movements, asanas, during meditation and during relaxation. Analogous to the seasoned cyclist who is able to maintain balance effortlessly while cycling, the practitioner in diaphragmatic breathing can focus attention on activities of daily life while naturally doing diaphragmatic breathing. To summarize, Sovic suggests the characteristics of optimal breathing are that it is diaphragmatic, nasal, smooth, deep, quiet, and free of pauses. Breath secret. Correct breathing has become extremely challenging in modern society. The process of breathing has been warped by chronic stress, sedentary lifestyles, unhealthy diets, and lack of fitness. All of these contribute to poor breathing habits. These in turn contribute to lethargy, weight gain, sleeping problems, respiratory conditions, and heart diseases. Modern living gradually increases the amount of air we breathe, and while getting more oxygen into our lungs might seem like a good idea, it is in fact light breathing that is a testament to good health and fitness. The biggest obstacle to our health and fitness is rarely identified problem, that is, chronic overbreathing. We breathe 2 to 3 times more than required without knowing it. Overbreathing causes the narrowing of airways, limiting your body's ability to oxygenate and the constriction of blood vessels, leading to reduced blood flow to heart and other organs and muscles. Role of oxygen and carbon dioxide in breathing process. The amount of oxygen our muscles, organs, and tissues are able to use is not entirely dependent on the amount of oxygen in our blood. Our red blood cells are saturated with maximum of 99% oxygen. It must be understood that the amount of oxygen used actually by our body depends on amount of carbon dioxide in our blood. We know from basic science of biology that we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide is the key variable that allows the release of oxygen from the red blood cells to be metabolized by the body. This is called the Bohr effect. It must be understood that when we breathe correctly, we have sufficient amount of carbon dioxide and our breathing is quiet, controlled, and rhythmic. If we are overbreathing, our breathing is heavy, more intense, and erratic, and we exhale too much carbon dioxide, leaving our body literally gasping for oxygen. In fact, if we breathe better, increasing the amount of carbon dioxide inside us, we deliver more oxygen to our muscles and organs, including heart and brain, and thus we heighten our physical capacity. Furthermore, At high altitude, that is, at mountains, the air is thin, which results in reduced atmospheric pressure of oxygen. The body adapts to this environment by increasing the number of red blood cells. Increasing the presence of red blood cells leads into improved oxygen delivery to the muscles. This enhances better overall performance, including longer endurance. Human respiratory system. Our respiratory system comprises the parts of body that delivers oxygen from atmosphere to our cells and tissues and transport the carbon dioxide produced in tissues back into the atmosphere. When we breathe, air enters the body and flows down the windpipe, which divides into two branches called the bronchi. One branch leads to right lung, the other to the left. Within the lungs, the bronchi further subdivide into smaller branches called bronchioles and eventually into a multitude of small air sacs called alveoli. Alveoli transport oxygen into the blood. The lungs contain approximately 30 lakhs of alveoli, each of which is surrounded by tiny blood vessels called capillaries. The contact surface between alveoli and blood capillary is quite large, that provides the potential for an extremely efficient transfer of oxygen to the blood. Oxygen is the fuel that muscles need to work efficiently. It is, however, a common misconception that breathing in a large volume of air increases the oxygenation of the blood. It is physiologically impossible to increase the oxygen saturation of the blood in this way because the blood is always almost fully saturated. It is the percentage of red blood cells containing oxygen within the blood. During the periods of rest, the standard breathing volume for a healthy person is between 4 and 6 liters of air per minute, which results in almost complete oxygen saturation of 95 to 99%. Because oxygen is continually diffusing from blood into the cells, 100% saturation is not always visible. An oxygen saturation of 100% would suggest that bond between red blood cells and oxygen molecules are too strong, reducing the blood cells' ability to deliver oxygen to the muscles, organs, and tissues. Basically, it is needed the blood to release oxygen, not to hold on to it. Regulation of breathing. There are two main aspects to the way we breathe: the rate or number of breaths per minute and the volume or amount of air drawn into lungs within each breath. Although the two are separate, one generally influences the other. A healthy person takes 10 to 12 breaths per minute, drawing in a volume of 500 milliliters of air for a total volume of 5 to 6 liters. If a person is breathing at a higher rate, at 20 breaths per minute, then volume will also be higher. In short, it must be understood that it is not the oxygen that exerts the primary influence on your breathing efficiency, but carbon dioxide. The crucial point to remember is that hemoglobin releases oxygen when in the presence of carbon dioxide. When we overbreathe, too much carbon dioxide is washed from lungs, blood, tissues, and cells. This condition is called hypocapnia, causing the hemoglobin to hold on to oxygen, resulting in reduced oxygen release and therefore reduced oxygen delivery to tissues and organs. With less oxygen delivered, organs, muscles, and brain will become lethargic. Moreover, too much breathing can cause reduced blood flow. Heavy breathing, even for short interval, is enough to reduce blood circulation throughout the body, including brain, which can cause a feeling of dizziness and lightheadedness. In general, blood flow to the brain reduces proportionately to each reduction in carbon dioxide. pH of blood and carbon dioxide. In addition, carbon dioxide plays a central role in regulating the pH of the bloodstream, how acidic or alkaline is blood. Normal pH in the blood is 7.365. When this level increases, breathing reduces. Conversely, if the pH of the blood is too acidic, breathing increases in order to offload carbon dioxide as acid, allowing pH to normalize. pH level affects the metabolism of the body. Also, overbreathing causes carbon dioxide levels to drop. Less oxygen will be delivered to muscles and organs. Nose breathing and nitric oxide. It is surprising to know that nose is a great source for nitric acid. Nasal breathing is imperative for harnessing the benefits of nitric oxide, working hand in hand with abdominal breathing and helping to maximize body oxygenation. Each time we breathe gently and slowly through the nose, we carry this mighty molecule into lungs and blood, where it can work throughout the body. Nitric oxide plays an important role in vasoregulation, homeostasis, which the body maintain a state of stable physiological balance in neurotransmission, immune defense, and respiration. It helps to prevent high blood pressure, lower cholesterol, keep the arteries young and flexible, and prevent the clogging of arteries with plaque and clots. All these reduce the risk of heart attack and stroke. Science of breathing behind samadhi, that is the mergence. Nirvikalpa and Savikalpa samadhi mergence occur, as we know, when someone transcends time and space, when his consciousness is merged with the supernal. What happens under this condition? What transformations occur to his physical body, mind, and consciousness in this ultimate achievement in life? It is the mystery of mysteries. In this stage, aspirant is in consciousless state. Mind is annihilated. However, exactly no one can say what transformations have taken place. What little known is that mind becomes thoughtless. There remains no awareness of any kind in moments of Savikalpa Samadhi. However, awareness is discontinuous. It comes and goes. One is in void, so he cannot express what happens. He awakes with manifested consciousness, but without any glimpses of that stage. When he was merged, or he had passed through, or what he experienced in that stage. On the contrary, if he enters in Nirvikalpa Samadhi, then he never comes back in human consciousness. It is like merging of drop of water in ocean, losing its identity. Drop of water and ocean water become the same. This happens at the stage of death. What happens to the physical body in the Savikalpa Samadhi? This has been attempted to diagnose the light of present-day advancement of science. This may be explained reviewing the inner physiological condition of the body in the moments of mergence, and also perceiving the changes experienced in the physical body immediately after the consciousness reappeared. We all well know that during meditation, one is introvert. He is aware of whatsoever is going inside in his mind. He is aware of his multiple series of thoughts. As he witnesses his own thoughts in meditation, frequency of appearance of thoughts is reduced. There are as many as 112 techniques of meditation. One can follow any technique based on his temperament. All means and ways finally take him to the door of emergence after years of long practice. However, every technique moves around breathing process, breathing pattern, and so on. Breath is the only medium which communicates with internal and external world around. Breath only takes consciousness to skywards. It takes to the stage of emergence. In meditation, finally one visualizes the inner life force energy that moves in the system, which gets established in Ajna Chakra after years of practice. And then it takes pathless path as divine light and travel upwards towards apex center, passing through 9 dormant chakras of Chidaaksha through Anmani Chakra, existing close to Sahasrara Chakra. Different chapters of the book discuss the evolution of life force energy and its movement from Muladhara Chakra onwards. Here we will be discussing how the breathing science physiologically plays a vital role in achievement of self-realization and emergence, and how the breathing process helps appearance of life force, and subsequently how life force is manifested in the physical body by proper and controlled breathing practices. In the process of meditation, when one observes his breath with full awareness, that is, when he observes closely, breathe in and breathe out, gradually he experiences that number of breaths in and out per minute gets reduced. For a normal person, taking approximately 10 to 15 breaths per minute, gradually they are reduced to 4 and even less in course of meditation when he gets deeply engrossed. He can easily perceive that breath becomes very light and intake of air in a single breath is also reduced. As the frequency of breath is reduced, the time span between 2 consecutive breaths in and out is increased. It means discontinuity between 2 consecutive breaths increases. That is, time gap increases when there is no breath inside till the fresh breath comes. In the above process, there is more carbon dioxide in the system since fresh breath has not entered and existing inside breath has not left. Thus, level of carbon dioxide increases in the system. Since a human being breathes out carbon dioxide and breath intake is mostly oxygen along with other ingredients from outside atmosphere. In these moments of natural breathless state, that is, in discontinuity between 2 consecutive breaths, that is, intake and exist in presence of excess carbon dioxide in the system that forces to release more oxygen from blood to physical organs, to heart and to brain. This gives more energy to overall physical system to make it more healthier. As meditation goes deeper and deeper, breath rate further reduces and excess carbon dioxide is piled up in the system, and thus heart, brain and body organs get surplus energy by getting more oxygen from blood. This is because of fact in discontinuity, carbon dioxide level increases and more oxygen get absorbed into the system. Moreover, in meditation, There is no physical movement of any kind. Heart rate is reduced. All the senses are introvert and eyes are closed. This leads to further enhancement of energy levels in the system, along with excessive flow of oxygen from the blood. It must be known that most of human energy is utilized in general living and routine work by eyes, lungs, and heartbeats, etc. Since the complete system is under restful condition during meditation, so major organs are not able to use sufficient energy, so surplus unused energy is available in the system. This excessive energy is transformed into life force energy in association with shavasa. The breath and its level is manifested in multifold in the system. This adds to already available pranic energy transformed from the routine breathing process. Thus, overall life force, pranic energy, is increased in the system that strengthens the body and makes the body healthy inwardly. Also, this surplus life force energy can travel through the human nerves, nadis, having least resistance. Gradually, as the meditation is continued, the body becomes saturated of this fine energy. Since mind is introvert and is kept closely associated with the spinal cord by yogic practices, so it gets saturated with excessive life force energy, and then life force energy can travel easily through very fine Sushmana Nadi located in between Ida and Pingala nadis of spinal cord through Muladhara, if directed mentally by deep meditation yoga practices. As per Paramahansa Yogananda, one round of travel of life force to Ajna Chakra and back is equivalent to 1 year of evolution of a human being by proper living and engrossment in divinity. Life force energy is basically pranic energy, the chai energy. One can experience this energy in short time span by yogic practices, particularly by Kriya Yoga practices, which is very fine, sacred art of breathing. This is revealed and taught by ancient masters. By silence of mind and through secret art of breathing, by regulating breathing, life force energy, the divine energy, can be enhanced. All this is visible by the grace and blessing of unknown divine force. However, techniques and methods do accelerate the process. Life force energy can also be enhanced by creating vacuum in the system, that is, by exhausting out air inside the system gradually. This is possible by less breath intake, that is, to take breath intake for short duration and more exhausts of air from the system through nostril for sufficiently long duration. This process reduces the gases inside the body since intake of air is gradually reducing. As this process is continued, vacuum of air will be experienced in the system. During these moments, more oxygen will be released by blood and absorbed by the system by the available level of carbon dioxide present in the system. This will generate abundance of life force in the system and can be easily experienced after regular practice. This leads to enhanced health, happiness, and well-being. This makes easy to transcendence of time and space with availability of surplus life force. This acts as a very useful tool to succeed in deep meditation, to take life force energy to apex center to be in the Savikalpa Samadhi. Also, recitation of AUM mantra by the proper breathing technique is very helpful to easily reach the stage of mergence. It is possible if M of AUM is prolonged much longer as compared to A and U during recitation, such that air inside is made to exit from the system and gradually vacuums is created and experienced inside the system. By this process, inside gases are breathed out and fresh air is not entered. This condition to generate excessive life force by absorption of oxygen from blood by system organs through remaining carbon dioxide in the system. Basically, this too is by secret of breath through recitation of AUM japa in a proper scientific way by complete awareness. All above pattern and ways of breathing reduce number of breaths per minute. In this way, life force energy is increased by slow breathing processes, and increase of carbon dioxide leads to enhance oxygen levels in physical system, which finally leads to increased pH level of inner system. Increased pH level leads to less breaths per minute since more oxygen is released from hemoglobin of the blood. Under these conditions, system does not need more oxygen, so the breath rate reduces by feedback control automatically. This makes human system healthy, strong, and disease-free. Moreover, taking breath through nostrils, nitric oxide of air is absorbed in nostrils that further strengthens the immune system, controls blood pressure, and take care of overall well-being of the physical system. As the life force transcends through Muladhara chakra along with Kundalini power through Sushmana Nadi of spinal cord in deep meditation, breath rate is automatically and gradually reduced. It turns out to be 1 to 2 breaths per minute. By this, body energy and excessive oxygen in the body and vitality increases, and aspirant can comfortably sit in timeless zone, focusing all of his energy within himself. Thus, at Ajna Chakra, the place between eyebrows, at third eye location, mind, soul, consciousness, and life force turn into as combined unit of divine energy. Furthermore, breath rate at this stage become minimal and gap, that is, discontinuity between two consecutive breaths in and out increases. This is gradual approaching stage of breath suspension. As breath suspension is continued, combined unit divine energy moves skyward through Anmani chakra to Sahasrara towards apex center. However, aspirant is in wakefulness with discontinuity. Sometime partially he is awake and sometime he is in consciousless stage. This is continued. He experiences the presence of feeble breath with more discontinuity. After some time, a stage comes when breath is completely suspended. Combined unit divine energy, that is, consciousness through apex center, merges with the supernatural, the universal consciousness as divine light. Then no breath, no awareness for a few moments is experienced. This is the stage of divine romance. After this gap of discontinuity, when continuity reappears, a feeling of breath, mind, and consciousness is gradually restored. In fact, before final divine romance, unit consciousness passes through awakening, slum state of partial awakening, dreamless state, and gradually to consciousless state of final emergence. This is the state of oneness without any feeling of breath. One is with the Almighty. He and He, the Almighty, become one. One comes back from this stage with immense peace, expanded consciousness experiencing, as if he has gone in different universe where there was no breath, no consciousness. He was in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. This is a unique experience that comes by grace and blessing of Almighty. This experience can be repeated by the blessing of God. Nothing more is unique, pleasant, and miraculous as this. This is miracle and secret of sacred breath. Without breath, this experience is not feasible.